So lawyers representing the detainees there are deploying a last-ditch effort to do something about it. Let's look at this headline. Lawyers for Rikers detainees will ask judge to impose federal control. Now, you know it's really serious when they asking the feds to step in. As conditions deteriorate, lawyers say it is time for last resort oversight of Rikers Island. This year, 18 people have died after having been held in New York City jails. We're gonna put up this from the New York Times. The lawyer's intention to request an outsider called a receiver to run the jails was conveyed in a letter filed by a federal official appointed to monitor the island's lockup, where close to 5,900 people are held. The letter could be the first step in a drawn out process that determines the future of Rikers, where conditions have deteriorated precipitously over the past 2 years. So if you haven't been up to speed, here's a reminder of what these detainees have been dealing with. We have a tweet that really puts it out there. Dewan Tatro laid it out. Today, Rikers Island claimed its 18th victim this year. The death toll in New York City jails is at its highest since 2013. People are not just dying on this island. The jail is killing them through a combination of mismanagement, racism, poor conditions. It's a hellhole. Mary, I had covered this before. We're really staying on top of this. And when I saw these photographs, and these photographs, came and really highlight what the conditions are. A picture is certainly worth 1,000 words. And it did remind me ever so slightly, but it reminded me of the bow of slave ships and how people, Africans and our ancestors, Africans, were chained together. They couldn't turn to the left or the right. There was defecation everywhere, heat, sweltering. It was just a really extraordinarily inhumane, cruel situation. This is not exactly like that, but the fact that people are laying on the floor, they have to defecate there, they can't get out of there. And most of those people are Black. It just gave me flashbacks to that. And Mayor, before you weigh in, I want to look at what Rebecca Kavanaugh had to say. State violence, correction staff ignored Venezuela as he lay dying on Rikers Island, leading other people detained in his housing unit to carry him to the clinic where they were refused entry. They carried him back to their unit where he died a half an hour later. How brutal beatings on this island were hidden from the public. Another headline lays it out. One man was paralyzed from the neck down. Another landed in a coma. Neither injury was documented properly in the New York City jail system, awash in disorder. I repeat, this is hell on earth. And check out this headline from just last week. Engaged Rikers Island guards and a third are charged after faking sick leave for a year while still being paid $140,000 a year, as the notorious prison was overrun with staffing issues and suicides. 3 prison guards allegedly scammed the taxpayer-funded system and took salaries worth hundreds of thousands of dollars while out on fake sick leave. I'm almost speechless over what is going on at the island. And I use that word loosely because to call it an island, I mean, when you say the word island, you think of paradise, and this is literally hell.
Yeah, I think people should pay close attention to your first point about our ancestors' trip to this country, our forced migration, and what's happening at Rikers, because it matters when you know that 56% of the people look like you and me. 56% of the people in that prison, and I should say it another way, only 7% of the people in there are white. Had this been a majority white people, this probably wouldn't be the case. And we can acknowledge or cannot not acknowledge the fact that there are months and months of backlogs of police officers brutally beating inmates. And people should know that. We shouldn't even call these people inmates. And that's a horrible term for me to use. We should also make sure that this distinction that this is not a prison. This is a jail. These people, this is a pretrial holding. No one in there is guilty of anything. They're waiting trial. So to be exposed to such hard is absolutely disgusting. And knowing that 67,000 people are cycled through Rikers a year is absolutely disgusting. It's also why New York City, if it was its own place, if it was its own country, would be the 57th largest prison industrial complex in the world. That means that's just Rikers Island cycling people through there. And we gotta say it, Black and brown people through there over and over, exposing people to all of this traumatic incidents where you see people getting killed, where you see officers, which is state violence, officers beating people unprovoked. And then you also have the stabbings from other people that are locked up in there that has risen to a 12-year high. We are watching something that is so inhumane that it can only exist in America. Let me say that again. It is so inhumane, it can only exist in America. I mean, Tajikistan has a safer prison complex than America does.
My God, Mayor, and you really laying this out, and you're right, it is not a prison. It has prison-like conditions, but thank you for pulling even me back on that. It is a jail, but every time I look at those pictures and I hear the horror stories, I think prison. This is the United States of America, and the feds need to step in right away. This should be not non-negotiable that they step in and clean this mess up.